IABC Chicago is among the very first to get the complete results. We just got them a couple weeks ago ourselves. The high-performing companies in terms of communication effectiveness had a 47% higher return on total shareholder value than did the low-performing companies in the bottom 25%. And again, that's for 2 studies running, so pretty impressive. They are 2 times more likely than low-performing companies to use social media. They are 3 times more likely to actually communicate about the employee value proposition or employee offerings, the EVP. They are 3.5 times more likely to really train managers for that important communication role that we often ask managers to serve without providing them support. And they are 5 times more likely to use a branded approach to talking about benefits and compensation. Courage is really about 3 things. 1, communicating about the employee value proposition, even at a time when it might not be what it used to be, but figuring out what's that deal between you and the employee and articulating it. It's also about ensuring the employee knows not only what they have in terms of that employee value proposition, but ensuring that they know how to use it and make the most of it. So, for example, a lot of employers are talking about health management and wellness now. Well, it's just as important to talk about how to use the programs and how to make the most of some of the tax-advantaged options as it is to talk about what the programs are. And lastly, it's about having the courage to really get out there and train your managers. I know it's expensive, I know there's no time, I know managers say they don't want it, but they are a linchpin in terms of really cascading that communication from the CEO down to employees. Our research shows employees trust their managers. That's who they want to hear things from. So let's make sure we're really supporting managers and training them to be the communication experts we need them to be. I once wrote an article about the difference between creativity and innovation, and that to be creative you didn't have to have pink hair, tattoos, and a lot of piercings. And I'm kind of feeling like today I need to say the same thing about innovation, that it's not about coming up with something that no one's ever heard of before, but it's maybe trying new approaches in new and different ways. So, keeping your eyes open for what's going on in different industries, what are sports teams doing, what are celebrities doing, really just filling your head with all kinds of ideas and different ways of reaching out to people. And then when you have a situation where you need to try something different, you've kind of got a head full of ideas. Specifically, though, in the study, what we found is that innovation really needs to be used in terms of aligning employees with the business. So it's really all about line of sight, getting them to understand their impact on the customer, helping them understand how they can impact the business, and making that seem close and achievable for them. It's also about increasing face-to-face communication. This is nothing new, but we need to look for new ways to achieve it. Employees are spread far and wide, money's tight, so how can we really accomplish face-to-face communication on a shoestring, perhaps, or what is virtual face-to-face? Can we use video on our intranet sites? Can we use webcasts and different things to reach our employees? And then lastly, innovation is about using social media. And social media, it might be bringing social media aspects into your intranet. So, maybe making your employee directory a little bit more Facebook-like. Maybe when you post articles on your intranet, employees have the opportunity to comment or vote for their most favorite. But it also means looking at existing social media outside of your firewall and kind of reaching employees where they already are. So is there a way you can use Twitter or Yammer or Facebook or any multitude of social media to help your employees understand the business better and feel that connection? Discipline is really about having a communication plan, and not just in your head, having that plan actually on paper, helping people understand what that communication plan is. It's also about ensuring that built into that plan are the outcomes you're trying to achieve. What are the changed behaviors you're looking for? What are the business outcomes you're hoping to drive through your communication. I have a colleague who talks about outcomes, not outputs. I don't care how many newsletters you got out this past year. What I want to know is, what were you hoping to achieve with those newsletters, and did you achieve it? And then finally, discipline is about balancing internal feedback with external feedback. So executive interviews, employee surveys, finding out what your internal audiences think about communication, want from communication, how do they want to receive it and what do they want to receive, but also doing some external benchmarking. And we have a number of clients who actually use the communication ROI study as their external benchmark. We have one client in particular who's been using it since 2003, and every year they go through the communication ROI. They use it when they're doing their communication planning for the future. And what's really exciting about that is, at a time when many budgets are being cut, many teams are being reduced, this company continually gets to prove its return on investment to the higher powers. And so they aren't suffering in the same way that many other companies are, so that they can continue to engage in these highly effective practices. One is, when the going gets tough, the tough get out there and communicate. When we started into these tough economic times, a lot of CEOs and leaders kind of ducked and covered. They did not escape from their offices. They didn't want to be seen or heard. But in the high-performing companies, CEOs were out there talking about the hard facts, helping employees understand what the new realities were. So get out there and communicate. Secondly, we go back to that employee value proposition, and it can be hard to kind of figure out where to start if you haven't really talked about an employee value proposition at the company. Get some people in a room, get a brainstorm going, flip chart. Maybe there's different categories of benefits, pay. What's the work environment like? Is it flexible? Am I allowed to work remotely? And just kind of brainstorm, why do I work for this company? And when you get a lot of input, that helps you kind of get the key elements of your employee value proposition, and that's a really good first step. Third, again, we are never going to accomplish communication without managers. So let's prepare managers for that role. Let's find out from them where they feel uncomfortable, what they think they need, and then develop some training and support for them that meets our needs and theirs, as well as employees. Fourth, goes back to measure, 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 and measure the right things. And something we recommend a lot, and it seems so simple, but a lot of times people don't think about this. You need to think about what you're going to measure the very first day you're putting your communication plan together. Measure doesn't come at the end because you don't have the baseline, you don't really know what you're looking for. So think about measurement at the beginning, the middle, and the end of a project or your communication year, or whatever. If you make a good investment in communication and you make the right decisions about how to spend that investment in terms of some of the things we've already talked about, you can end up in that high-performing category and expect, on average, 47% higher shareholder return, which is pretty good.